Good morning. All right, good morning, everyone, and let's call the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board Workshop meeting to order. Today is Friday, January 20th, 2023. Happy New Year to everyone. We'll go ahead and have our workshop session. We're still expecting a couple more members this morning, and when we get to our public hearing, those folks will get sworn in as well. So, all right, Brett, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you and walk us through our applications this morning, please.
Going up here, this area is all pressed down, 500 garage for storage.
They're not sharing, that drive doesn't share with the, with the Dicker. Okay.
Primrose.
I mean, I anticipate, like, it's mostly probably going to be just company vehicles. I mean, unless somebody, is it a showroom also, I guess, or?
So, from my understanding, the pool business has changed enough that they don't even really do much in a showroom kind of thing. It's more just an office. They may do a few things there, but programming and stuff, they come out to your backyard and they'll show you on the computer what your backyard's actually going to look like.
Wow.
Kind of thing. So where, you used to see you'd come out and they'd have a few pools, set up, or one with different options, and this is not going to have any of that. So it looks very residential, with some parking in the back for construction vehicles. They are, City Council did allow a condition to park some light vehicles back there.
And to make sure they turn off their backup alarms on their trucks.
Privacy fence and some good screening, which our illustrious member, Mr. Corkle, will be discussing when it comes time for that.
Will you be presenting to us, Pat?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're, all right. So you're excused from this discussion then on this?
I feel excused.
Even during the workshop?
I mean, does that mean go away?
Okay. No, you can sit there. He just has to remain silent.
All right.
So here's elevations.
So the first set of elevations in here are the elevations being, because there's another set of elevations later in the package.
We're asked that of the applicant, but I believe that is the first set is the.
I mean, they're similar, but there are some differences, right?
There are a few little differences. I think there's some plain areas. I think it feels like these sides.
Yeah, like there's some windows missing or something. Yeah.
Need some different windows or something in there. They're wanting to go for residential, and you definitely wouldn't see all that flat brick on a residential.
Right. I like the dormers on these elevations as
I do like the
compared to the other.
dormers. I like the gable.
The gable, yeah.
So it looks like we have council conditions on landscaping and materials and fence and dumpster.
Yeah, there's.
Right.
Do it at the public hearing.
Especially landscaping.
I missed the dig, I'm sorry.
I verified all those conditions were met, except I think there's a problem with one. But, can't talk.
Landscaping?
I'm not here.
Oh, and then the storage?
He's talking to Holly.
Also the storage. actually, I guess, not really the storage, that's just landscaping still.
More little elevations here.
Not very much landscaping on those elevations.
Okay.
So Brett, hold right there, that site plan. Go to the, so that's the site plan that was presented at city council meeting, and that's what the conditions are based on. That site plan looks a little different than the site plan we're looking at the front of the package. Well, I'll ask the applicant that question. There's the water quality retention basin is not in the other site plan, for instance.
Yeah.
Question on one of the council conditions, because that could be read two different ways, I think. The privacy fence shall be placed inside the 15-foot buffer. And so what is inside? To me, that means the buffer's outside the fence, but it looks like it was interpreted as the fence is in the buffer. Because it looks like on the drawing, it's like in the middle of the 15-foot
So
landscape
when,
buffer.
normally when we put that condition, we want the fence to be to the property, not to the neighbor. So you want your landscaping
On the,
Yeah,
closest to
fence.
the property line,
Right.
then your fence.
So maybe I read, go to the landscape drawing if you could. It looks like the fence is in the middle of the buffer.
It
Not,
could be, it just has to be,
it could be. It doesn't, okay, because I interpreted inside,
can't be
meaning
on
the
the property.
landscape's got to be outside the whole
minimum
buffer.
15-foot planted buffer shall be provided. Buffer shall be planted. So it just says a minimum 15-foot buffer, and then shall be placed inside the 15.
Placed
yeah,
inside
so
the 15.
here's the
Or
fence.
just different ways you could read that, right? I wasn't sure what they were. what
So
they
it's,
were
yeah, it talks about
Oh,
on the,
I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah.
on the
Yes.
west and south property lines. So where's the north arrow again?
North is up on this drawing.
All right, so we're west and south,
Yeah, so this is the fence line right here.
Yeah.
okay? So that's the west.
So landscaping
There is,
outside the fence.
yeah, there is some landscaping outside the fence. I just didn't know if it meant the whole buffer needs to be outside the fence.
No,
Okay.
it's kind of a be nice to your neighbor
Right?
thing, especially on a commercial property.
So you're not showing off your fence.
Yeah, you know, residential may not have that condition, but on a commercial property, when it abuts
Yeah.
residential, you know, we don't necessarily want them to be looking at your fence and this and that, so they get a look at landscaping.
Okay, so for this application, we'll be doing site plan, landscaping, exterior elevations and materials. No signage.
Right.
Okay, very good.
All right, and then we will move on to the landscape for landscape for off-leash.
And this is the application that I'll be excusing myself from.
That's
And then Frank and Teresa will as well, so it'll be, well, one, two.
Tom's supposed to be here.
Tom's supposed to be here. If he doesn't show up, then we don't have a quorum for that, so then we,
We'll have to add, we can add everybody in then.
okay. Except for me, all right. So you can maybe, well, you could act as, we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
See, now I see where it's going.
Yeah, right?
No,
Just
we'll
gonna push
have
me
to
aside,
keep
aren't
You should keep, yeah.
Okay. Will we have to reappoint Holly to be the chairman for this application then? Or is she grandfathered in from last meeting?
I think, yes.
Okay.
Seems like discontinuation of last time.
Yeah, let's continue with
All right, very good.
They tweaked the Old Oak Parkway side here for streetscape. I know David and Mr. Toothaker had some conversations earlier this week about things on here, and I believe this is close to the most up to date. There might be one little revision after that, but it's not really a big to-do with that. So we got the streetscape, which was required over here on Norcross Street. We fixed the trees from last time along South Main. And this computer,
It's a big drawing.
yeah,
The PDF takes a while to load.
this is basically completely new here, this elevation. So I think it's a lot better. It's a nice plan. It's gonna be, there's really nothing else to the intersection. We got the gas station that's right here that we're gonna get some shrubs out the front. By the way, it does appear that they're maybe gonna do something because they've cleared out some of that underbrush and stuff in their property. So
Who's there?
the gas station. So it
It
seems
was
like
questionable.
we're wondering, because that's been so long that maybe it was just going away, but it seems like they might be moving forward. So we'll have, basically, this is the only streetscape on Old Oak. You'd have to go back, going east, you'd have to go clear back to
Avalon?
basically post office, to where we got the new Wellstar at Park Street. So,
And then you have the post office in.
yeah, so, yeah, so we're establishing something here,
Yeah, it needs to be for sure.
yeah.
Does the gas station even have any space to put anything? I mean, does the gas station, do they even have,
It was little skinny.
They
Like
had
a
a
little
little skinny
tiny-
piece out the street, nothing for trees, but we did get them to do,
some shrub?
hedgerow up there.
Yeah, okay.
So they'll have a little something inside. Lighting,
Never mind.
everything looks pretty good here. You can see their indications for their poles. And then the cut sheet on the heads. Then we will go to,
Right, there's already existing street lighting out there along Main Street already,
I
right?
think Main Street is done with the DOT project, yes.
Oh, it's the DOT.
I think DOT did that one
Is it,
when they did, because DOT did from Old Milton to Academy Street already before, a few years ago. That's not changing. I think the street lights the pedestrian lights are in there. This is Maru that we saw, the Japanese restaurant out by the mall. They're coming back. Ms. Spencer will be here to represent their landscape plan. We did end up moving from the corner. We were talking about a corner piece to
Yeah.
access the site. It just isn't going to work on the corner. Grade change, utilities, all that's out there that's already been installed, just isn't going to make it. So brought it around to the side, and it'll come in off the side street. And then she will talk more about the landscaping things. I did talk to David yesterday. He has a couple concerns about some of these pretty large trees over
Yeah.
here, so I think there's one or two of those that are gonna be coming out in his direction. Sarah may talk about that, maybe not, but it's at the arborist's request that it gets a little thinned out. So hopefully we can keep the health of those trees out there, because they're pretty good size.
Yeah, they are. They've been there a while.
Yep, and that's it. That's all we have.
Whatever happened with with the, like, all their various signages and banners?
We're working on that.
Okay,
I left that all in here just as context if you guys want to see buildings and whatnot, but we're working through that.
okay.
Okay, any questions for Brett this morning? All right, there being none, let's adjourn the workshop session this morning. You'll get your,
Tom is not coming, he's seriously sick at home.
uh-oh.
So,
I just sent him, did he send you a message? Okay, I just sent him a message and.
yeah, I told him.
That's unfortunate. Okay, all right, well,
So that means we'll have to bring in
so
Frank and
Franklin's
Tracy.
you'll participate in all this, so. For the landscaping and site lighting, okay? All right, good. All right, we got about 5 minutes before we start our public hearing, so get your coffee cups filled, get ready.
We got to swear in.
Yes, yep. Gosh, sorry to hear about Tom.
Seems to be the way of things lately. Everybody's,
Apologize, I'm very sick. He just sent me a text now, so, yeah.
everybody I talked to is sick all day. They're out down there, they were sick last week.
The custom pools headquarters, the first item. Oh, okay. The owner, there's his building office. He's in Sandy Springs now, but he happens to come up this way.
And this is where it's down by, across from Big Lots?
Yeah, there it is. So it's the wooded corner right there. You know, there's the auto parts store, Big Lots, is all Big Lots is over there. The new Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's it. What time did you send it? Oh, there it is. On here? You've got the latest on here? Wow, that was a real better.
I what?
Have you already sworn in?
No, he's got to be,
I'm holding out for more money.
Did our salary?
and Teresa, yep.
And maybe a shoe contract, see how that goes.
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board meeting, public hearing. Today is Friday, January 20th, 2023. So welcome, everyone. Glad to see everyone. Happy New Year for those that I haven't said that to. So, although we're already 20 days into the new year, so the new year is not so new anymore. Okay, first order of business is roll call. So we have everybody's here except. Oh, oh, okay. All right, Tracy, it's all your show.
Good morning, everyone. The time is now 9:04, and I call the January 20th, 2023 meeting to order. Thank you to everyone in the room and online who are watching and joining us this morning. Please note for the record that all members of the Design Review Board are present with the exception of Member Owens, Member LeCain, and Member Matherly. Everyone in City Council chambers will please make sure that your phones and mobile devices are silenced. We would appreciate that. Now we will start with the swearing-in ceremony with Judge Bendo. Will be preparing that for us this morning. Yes. Will we have the following members come down to the front? Member Palmer, Member Corco, Member Rocco, and
Can we read from those?
yes, all these will be- oh, you can pass. Thank you.
I haven't been married in a long time.
It seems odd. Should have been totally recused from anything related to that.
We face each other?
Usually they do that. You're saying your own name. What's that? That's all up to you. All right. Are you coming down to take a picture? Okay. Good morning. My name is Jamie Bendel. I'm one of the municipal court judges here in the city of Alpharetta. It is my pleasure and honor to administer your oath of office to participate on the Design Review Board here for the city of Alpharetta. So fairly easy today. I don't think we have any first-time oath receivers. This is be similar to what you did the last time. My copy of this says state your name. So your version should say your own names, and just ask that you would say those at the appropriate time. Okay? All right. And you can go ahead and raise your right hands when you do so. I state your name. Hereby accept the honor of serving as a board member of the Design Review Board of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due to this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia. And I shall support the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia and the Constitution and laws of the United States of America.
I shall support the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia and the Constitution and laws of the United States of America.
Further, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I shall faithfully perform the duties of a design review board member, regularly attend meetings, uphold the ideals of community and service, act and conduct business in accordance with the city's code of ethics and conduct, and support the charter and laws of the city of Alpharetta. Congratulations.
Do we sign or something?
Brandon says regularly attend meeting.
Less travel? Yeah. Of course it is. Here you go. Less travel?
Thank you, James.
Okay, next, we're going to have our election of chairman and vice chairman. So our first order of business will be to elect the officers. And would anyone like to make a nomination for the chairman?
Nominate Richard Kramer for chairman.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, the next nomination will be for vice chairman.
I nominate Frank Schwing as vice chair.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, all right.
Congratulations.
You too.
And I will now turn
You get a
over
chance
the
to
meeting
discuss.
over to Chairman Kramer.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. Very good. Well done. Great. Okay. Just a gentle reminder, if everyone will make sure their electronic devices are in the off or silent mode. And we are going to rise, face the flag, and have the Pledge of Allegiance this morning, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you for that. All right, next up, any items from staff members this morning? Any?
Welcome to all our newly sworn-in members and a few that got sworn in at city council the other night. So welcome to the design review board for this year. I think it's going to be hopefully a good year. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there about the economy going crazy, and some are saying up, some are saying down, so we'll see. But I can tell you there's enough that I think February will be a good month for us. I think we'll have gonna have a pretty good meeting in February and maybe March as well. So of things that I know that are coming down the pipeline. So welcome.
Okay.
Good. All right. Thank you, Brett. Any items from staff members this morning? Quick question for you, Brett. I know, will there be a workshop being held on Robert's Rules of Order or something coming up? Or?
We are still working on that, yes.
Okay.
A complete thing for all of the boards. Lauren, the city clerk, is working with the city manager on how he wants to formulate that and go through that. So that'll be coming up. We'll give plenty of notice. We'll probably run 2 of them because there's a good number of board members and commission members, so we'll probably run a couple of them. Maybe even, I don't know, we've been tossing around one during the day, one in the evening, so we'll see. But there will be something coming, I would guess, early spring.
Okay, very good. We'll put that on our calendars as soon as that gets scheduled. So,
Yeah.
Good. Fantastic. And I want to thank the board for electing me chairman once again. Thank you for trusting me, and Frank as well. So Frank. All right. A little recap from last year. I went through and looked at what we did in our 12 meetings last year. 11 meetings last year. I'm sorry. We did not have a meeting in August of last year. So this board made a total, not in counting the meeting minutes, made made a total of 98 motions last year in a total of 11 meetings. So there were 3 board members that made over 70% of the motions. So anyway, just food for thought. But we had, and I've got some, I was reading our buzzwords, no, what do we call our sorry.
Our word of the day.
Word of the day, yeah, I charted a few of those, so I've got those in my notes, and I'll share those a little bit later with everyone. But anyway, all right. Anything else from board members this morning? I understand Tom is pretty sick this morning, so that's why he's not here. So send him a text or say a prayer for Tom to get well quickly. Okay. Our first order of business this morning is to approve the meeting minutes from our December 9th meeting. And I know I had a few quick changes I sent to Tracy earlier this week. She's made those changes, so those have been incorporated. Anything else? Has everybody had a chance to look at our December 9th, 2022 meeting minutes? You can because you've reviewed them, and I mean, no, but you can read them, and you can still act on them, or you can recuse yourself if you want. All right, everybody's looked at the meeting minutes?
No, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay. Anybody else? Have we had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from December? Somebody want to make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we approve DRB meeting minutes from December 9th, 2022, and a motion.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the minutes by by board member Rocco and a second by board member Palmer. Comments, questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the December 9th, 2022 Design Review Board meeting minutes, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? No opposition? And there are 2 abstentions. So minutes are approved 4-0-2 this morning. Good. Okay. Our first application this morning is Custom Pools of Atlanta. You're here. Come on down, please. Make sure.
Pat's leaving us.
Okay. And for the record, Mr. Corkle has recused himself from this application. Good morning, Mr. Owens.
Good morning.
If you'll introduce yourself.
It's always nice to see smiling, familiar faces. I either know or met most of you, but my name is Chris Owens. And Pat Corkle and I have been engaged by Atlanta Custom Pools to represent them this morning for a presentation to you all for architectural colors, materials, site and landscape, and fencing. Custom Pools of Atlanta, the owners are here. Danny Frankie and his partner are here with us to be able to speak to their vision and what their plans are for this property. But the project is located at the corner of Highway 9 and Henderson Village Parkway. And, Brett, do I have control of this, or can you? Okay. Great. Technology City of the South, right?
We're trying to be.
Let's see how we go about this. You actually have to click on it on the screen, Brent.
Yep.
The left one is not, but
Didn't work.
driving the mouse this morning is a bit challenging. Brett, would you be able to advance the slides from there?
Sure.
Yeah, just hit one slide. Thank you. Just put in a map just to help orient you. Like I said, the new Dunkin' Donuts is right across Highway 9 from the property, and it's diagonal from an assisted living facility that's a single-story residential look. And, you know, auto parts stores aren't the prettiest things, but we've got one on the other corner. So we are the fourth corner of that intersection. So, Brett, you can see hit the next slide. I heard it mentioned in your workshop, and you all are correct. This property came before City Council for a variance to allow contractor overnight storage in the back of the property. So that variance was granted. This is the site plan that was presented to City Council at the time. A couple of key components of that variance. There was a 15-foot landscape buffer imposed on the west and southern property lines. It's a bit of a mystery on the west. I wasn't in that meeting, so I'm not going to question the wisdom of City Council. However, our western property line is the city limits between Alpharetta and Milton. So the people immediately to the left, plan left or west of us, are in the city of Milton. They're going through the development process in Milton now, and they are building streetfront, storefront commercial with office over above. So there is some residential kind of southwest of us, but immediately next door is going to be commercial as well. What you see here, the intent was to have some open detention next to the parking, but one of the key conditions of that City Council variance approval was to save existing trees in that corner of the property. So what we discovered when Pat and I started the design process is the surveyor missed some significant trees in that corner that weren't on that original plan. So the site plan that you have before you from us today for approval is slightly different in that corner so that we had to reconfigure the parking, put the detention under the parking so we could save those trees in that corner. So I think it's a net benefit to the property and to the owners in the city. So if you could go to the next slide, Brett. For us to follow, I put in the City Council minutes and highlighted some of the conditions that pertain to our topics today. Contractor office with outside storage, as I described. They did tie it to be substantially similar to the site plan that we just discussed. There is a requirement for screening, and as we read the condition, the privacy fence on the south and west side had to be woven into that buffer while avoiding trees. And that's what we've done, is we've attempted to put the privacy fence in a place that makes sense, not hard up on the property line, but also to respect and keep those trees as much as possible and minimize that disturbance. We also have a Highway 9 Georgia DOT project going on in our front yard. One of the conditions was that we work with and talk to DOT about that, and so we've done that. We had a site meeting with Georgia DOT representatives and their contractors who are building the project. The DOT has a slope easement on the front of this property so that they can slope down from the back of the new sidewalk. Mr. Frankie wants to put a basement under this building, and he wants to backfill that wall and have his yard slope up from the sidewalk. So what we discussed with the DOT in the field is that during the construction project, that right-of-way is owned and managed by the contractor. That's why we invited the contractor to the meeting. The contractor has no issues with us doing the work in the frontage as long as we coordinate with him during the action of placing the fill material in there. That project is slated not to finish until the end of 2024. So there's incumbent on us to play nice with the contractor so that we can get Mr. Frankie's project built, get the soil backfilled, and get the landscaping installed the way that it needs to be done. The DOT also currently in their project has the scope to install a driveway into the front of this property. There's a curb cut out there now off of Highway 9. The DOT's contract includes restoring it, building it back. The City Council chose to have the applicant remove that and not have access directly to Highway 9, which the applicant is fine with. I also talked to DOT, and they've agreed not to build that new driveway back so that Mr. Frankie doesn't have to rip it out after they've just put it in. So there was some common sense exercised in the field by DOT's personnel as well as their contractor. So we're hopeful that that's going to continue, and what you all look at here today, what Pat and I had prepared for was worst case is the landscaping, some of it might have to be delayed until the DOT contractor leaves the site. But we think, based on what we've heard, it's going to be able to go forward in the proper sequence. But if that's the case, that'll be subject to permits, and the city will require that the landscaping you approve get put in when it's possible.
Chris, is DOT foreseeing putting the, like a protection wall in front of this piece of property like they've been doing in some others?
You're not the first person that's asked me about those walls, and this frontage does not call for that.
Okay.
So that, unfortunately, a brief sidebar, that's DOT's way of being sensitive to our community and trying to be aesthetically pleasing. And I do say that with some sarcasm, but that's unfortunately true. Absent that cast concrete wall that you see that they're trying to make it look like stone.
It's more of a barrier wall is what they're,
Absent those, they would put in galvanized guardrails.
yes, yeah.
Which, would you rather, see galvanized guardrails in your face, or would you rather see that? I don't know which one's worse. I really can't tell you. I do know that I was approached by a gentleman who owns a property three lots down from Mr. Frankie on Highway 9. He did not give them a slope easement, so they built a wall and extended it up. It's 5 feet high. I walked it and looked in the field myself. It's up to my shoulder, and he plans to put a building on the back of the sidewalk with street front retail. And he told them that during his right-of-way negotiation, and DOT's put a wall up. So I think he's going to file suit against DOT on it. They're not pretty, Richard, and I'm not a fan of them, but luckily Mr. Frankie doesn't have to deal with this. With
Okay,
that here.
that's,
This council required it to be a brick and stone building, which Mr. Frankie is going to present today with some premium materials, and there's a board. We can pass that around if you'd like. That is not synthetic limestone, that's Texas limestone. And that is not painted brick. That is a brick that's been selected and manufactured that way to be done properly, rather than buying the cheapest brick possible and putting a coat of paint on it, which we see is a tendency and a pattern in the styles these days. There's another condition about landscaping, which Pat will speak to, and the fencing condition also extends to have an ornamental fence along the east and north sides of the property. And we have samples of those in the presentation for you all to consider today. So, Brett, if you could. I spoke briefly about the site plan. This is the engineered site plan that we're proposing. As you can see in that lower left corner, we've got underground detention, but in that extreme corner, there's some additional trees. Actually, there's some oaks in there that have some nice shape to them that we intend to save. And so we did have to rework that parking lot edge. What I've done here is I've highlighted some retaining walls on the site, because I know that's something you all are concerned about. The red lines are extensions of the building foundation and basement walls, if you will, and those will be clad in the same material as the building, the limestone and the brick. The purple line that you see in that lower left corner, the parking lot is about 2 feet above the tree roots right there. So we're going to just use the curb to allow that existing area to be below the parking lot. So that will not be visible from the parking lot. It's also going to be screened by the privacy fence. We'll have a dumpster pad in the corner that's there in that light blue, and that'll be an opaque screen to match the building as well. We can go to the next one. I think, we'll, unless if there's any questions on the side, I'd be happy to take those, or we can allow Pat to present the landscape.
yeah, any site plan questions?
Yeah, just a couple of general. So in that lower left corner, you don't have much plantings there. Is that because of the existing trees?
That's right.
And then on the east, looks like you've kept everything out of the easement. So, right? So
The only
the
thing-
most conservative approach is to just keep everything out of the easement.
That's right.
For now, right?
So Chris, let's see, the curb cut into the property, is that the existing one that you're reusing?
Yes, off Henderson Village?
Yes,
Yes, that's existing.
Okay. Because then there's the Primrose entry is like right below it, right?
Immediately to the south,
south.
yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
So there's no interconnectivity between those two properties?
No.
Aside from Henderson Parkway? Okay.
Yeah, and based on the work trucks and things that Mr. Frankie will have, we don't want those mixing with daycare drop-off and things like that. So.
Okay, very good. And then, so you're using underground stormwater detention then at this point?
That's right.
And then where does it get released? Where does that water go from? Or
Yeah,
go to, I guess?
Sure. Brett, could you zoom in on that corner, please? That lower left corner?
Because it looks like you've also got a flume there or something that's happening.
We do. So immediately off the property where that purple text box is an existing drainage inlet. One of the conditions from the city council variance was that we were supposed to make effort to connect to that with a pipe. The adjacent property owner has not been receptive to that. Anytime Mr. Frankie's approached him, he wants something in return. One day it's maybe payment, another day it's maybe something else. It's a very fluid discussion. We've tried. Also, if we tried to go through there and hook to that, we would disturb the tree roots we're trying to save. What we've developed is, I mentioned to you, the parking lot is about 2 feet above that natural area. And we've spoken to David Shostak and to Jill Bazinet, David the arborist, Jill's the stormwater. We're going to release that underground detention on grade and hand place a dry riverbed of rocks out there to have that flow spread out to go sheet flow into that existing inlet like it is today.
Okay.
That's all done above the tree roots without disturbance, and David has conceptually approved that. It's in for his detailed review now. So.
Okay. So who ends up maintaining that flume or that?
The property owner,
Property.
Mr. Frankie.
Do that.
It's all on his property.
Okay.
He would be maintaining it.
It collects leaves and all that stuff and it starts to, okay.
Have to be blown off with his landscape maintenance.
So the property owners that are to the west, I'll call it that, which is the city of Milton, are they apartments, or are they condos, or are they townhomes, or are they, I'm just curious?
The lot immediately west is zoned for commercial mixed use.
That's what, okay,
Yeah,
that's part of that
and
second lot.
that lot, you see that notch right there on the
Yes.
Brett's map? That little notch is part of the commercial lot.
Oh, okay,
And then immediately to the south is a townhome development that's got its own HOA.
okay, because I know that's a gated community.
Yeah.
Yes, the
too,
gate
so-
is deep in there right at those first units.
Right, okay, so the detention pond, or the stormwater detention pond is on that commercial piece of property, not on the,
Correct.
okay, interesting.
Yeah,
All right.
we're detaining on our property and releasing sheet flow to where it's going today. They're going to release into their own system. And it's my understanding next door, there's a master system that serves that commercial lot as well as those townhomes.
Okay, all right.
But we're not affecting that. We're maintaining status quo with our contribution to their system.
And that's, maybe I'm not following it, but that water flow is not going to come right down on the back of that residential property?
There is a drop inlet back there today that collects the runoff from Mr. Frankie's property. We are releasing our water flow in the same location and pattern that today's runoff is going into that inlet.
Yeah, there's just going to be more runoff because there's more impervious surface, right? It's all woodland there today.
But they hold it so that it still flows like it would be a natural.
And that's
area.
been calculated and figured
Yes,
out that,
there's a-
okay, because I know a lot of times you get complaints from residential areas after something's built that
Right.
all of a sudden they're getting a ton of water flowing on their property.
And the nature of this system that we've designed, it is encased in gravel, and so the smaller storms are absorbing back into the ground and not even running off the property. So it is going to be behaving like today's pattern. You know, if it hits the woods and you get a light rain, nothing really runs off.
Nothing runs off.
Right, that's how this system is going to behave.
Okay.
It will only overflow from bigger storms, and it will take longer to drain out in order to match that existing condition.
Chris, along the Highway 9 portion where DOT or the contractor has an easement, I guess, how deep does that easement go?
Right to our front door.
Really?
Yes, sir.
All the way to the front door?
Yeah, it's a trapezoidal shape, but it comes across down almost to the front porch of the house.
So you're not outside the easement. I interpreted the property line as where the easement.
Yeah, that's what I
No,
was
it's,
thinking.
the property line you see is called out there, and the easement is planned south of that
Goes over the property.
Wow.
into the front yard. That's why it was necessary for us to meet with them and get their consent, because otherwise we would have to leave that grade like it was, which would be odd to have the sidewalk slope down and then have stairs back up or do something weird to the front door. Luckily, they've agreed to let us come in and backfill, so instead of it sloping down, it's going to have a nice street presence and slope up.
And you're saying DOT won't finish this portion of their construction until, towards 2024? So that's
So the-
another almost 2 years.
Yeah, so the action of pouring, so the scope in front of Mr. Frankie's property is new curb, new sidewalk, and they're going to grass. They're going to put straw and grass out. The action of doing that is not much, but they're right now in a holding pattern on this segment waiting on utility relocations, and they're waiting on Georgia Power, AT&T, Comcast, and everybody to move the overhead utilities before they can start putting in curb and gutter. Their contract term is through December of 2024. They wouldn't give me a commitment on when the concrete's going to be poured out here. But we'll be in touch with them, obviously, because Mr. Frankie's going to want his front yard to look nice. And so my expectation is they're going to get their stuff installed in this section during this calendar year. And I think the larger project is what's going to take so long.
So okay, I mean, the monument sign and landscaping or anything, it's just, I mean,
Well, and so Mr. Frankie's working with a sign company, and he'll bring that back for your consideration
Yep.
separately, of course. But our expectation is that at worst case, it may have to go in later after DOT leaves, the sign part and, any supplemental landscape.
okay. Okay. All right, any other site questions this morning? All right. You want to talk about landscaping while we're on kind of the overall big picture? All right, Mr. Corkle.
Good morning, esteemed Design Review Board members. I'll start off in the presentation with the specifics of the landscape conditions by City Council, and then briefly talk about the design itself. So we're going to be substantially saving the trees in the left-hand corner of the site. The drawing in the left-hand corner shows the outlines of all the trees that we're saving, including the trees to the west of the property, which are termed boundary trees. And those boundary trees, those will be affected when the commercial property takes over. They're on the Milton side. There's one specimen tree, which is the biggest circle in there, which we were saving. And then, as Chris had mentioned, the parking lot, the wall layout has saved that tree and saved the other trees there to the south. And there's two trees south of that as well, which are part of the daycare property, which we are also saving as being boundary trees. Outside storage shall be screened from public streets. So we've done that. There is the driveway entrance to the east, which comes in. When we get to the landscape plan itself, we screened that, except we can't really screen the driveway itself. We've got a minimum 15-foot planted buffer. There was discussion about the privacy fence, the 8-foot privacy fence that's required. And I think it was explained well enough that, that's not just placed on the property line so that the other property owners are left looking at the face of a fence. We've placed it inside there. We placed all the screening material outside of that fence for the most part. So they're left looking at evergreen screening.
Excuse me, Pat, was this drawing in our package?
Yes. I hope.
Landscape plans were in it.
Well, landscape plan was, but not this one in particular that had the city council landscape conditions. I can't find it.
Oh. It was part of the package that was submitted.
Scroll down.
The next drawing is. There's the landscape plan.
Yeah, the one that's in there is a little different. It's not exactly this one.
Yeah,
This is the same thing, just with landscape overlaid.
Yeah, I think the drawing is this. I think the plan is the same.
It's the same plan.
Yeah, it just, this one you're showing, City of Alpharetta, scroll down, City of Alpharetta landscape notes.
If you go to the bottom right, those are the dates, those are the drawings.
No, this one, this
that one, but the one before
one
that's not
before
in
was,
the package.
this is the one that's in there.
Go back one page, Brett, if you don't mind.
That I can't speak to.
So typically, in your packet, I don't believe I included the tree replacement plan.
Right.
That's basically,
this
that is
what-
Pat's calculations for tree density.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
thought the
All
more
right.
important focus today was the landscape plan, which includes
Well,
those trees
it-
plus the rest of the material.
It is, I was just trying to figure out, just didn't look familiar. Okay,
And it does help clarify what's going on. in
It's
that
the
corner,
same
'cause you
drawing.
See all the trees.
Just the
that are-
trees are showing.
yep, I agree. Okay,
We can leave it on this drawing, if this is the one you
And that-
guys have seen.
And that, the one residential property that's closer, I'm trying to look at Google satellite, but it looks like they have a row of something along the north end of their property.
They've got Leland's,
Leland's, okay, all right,
they've got a row, and they have their own 6-foot fence.
all right,
yeah,
That 6-foot fence is shown on there as well.
okay.
If you zoom in.
okay.
Good, 'cause that's really the only residential property that's even close to this, so.
Correct. And then in this drawing, you can see the tree line right there that's shown. You see the existing 6-foot fence, and there's the Leland cypress trees that are there.
Gotcha, okay, I see, yep.
All right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I didn't know that wasn't part of the package. we've heard about GDOT and their easements, and we're required to have a landscape strip that is 10 feet, 20 feet back from the right-of-way. The right-of-way is the dark line that cuts across just above the sign there. So we're required a 20-foot landscape strip. We're required to meet those requirements. The antithesis of that is, and the change to that is you've got the GDOT easement that comes through there as well. And like Chris had mentioned, we're showing everything with the work being done, 2024, the agreements in place, and what is the most desired landscape plan that hits the city requirements once GDOT clears out.
So this is what, so this wouldn't be installed until GDOT clears out, gets
Worst case.
their
Worst case, yeah.
worst case, okay.
If the contractor allows us to install it early, we will. But,
Okay.
Worst case is we can't install this till they vacate. And,
Makes
that's
sense.
something, again, it would be probably a condition of the CO from the city standpoint. But we wanted to focus on the desired landscape plan and the final outcome with you all. And if we have to do phasing with the staff and DOT, we may have to do that.
How's that easement work? Is that temporary easement just during the construction, or is that a permanent easement?
Permanent.
Permanent.
So we've got city ordinance, we've got city council conditions, and we've got an easement. It's a fun one out there. GDOT's awesome. The corner of North Main Street and Henderson Parkway shall be heavily landscaped, including ornamental planting beds. In the top right of the drawing, that's what you see we have done. Again, it's back of right-of-way. And then there shall be fencing along North Main Street. And that, I'll show you here in a moment what that is, but there's a line drawing on there as well. It has to be outside of the landscape, required landscape strip. And I'll show you the images of what that fencing is, as well as the fencing of the buffer.
Is the fencing there, the decorative metal fencing, is that for security reasons or for?
No, it's in condition to screen the site in the buffer. So it's a condition to screen everything from adjacent uses.
The decorative metal fencing is
Oh,
supposed.
the decorative metal
I'm sorry.
fencing was desired by the client,
Okay,
and it was shown as 4 feet tall.
okay.
And I'll show you an image of that here in a moment. Thank you, Brett. Brett, can you scroll down? There should be an L1 drawing. That doesn't count. Keep going. There it is.
There we go.
So this is the landscape material, and I can walk you through the streetscape or what have you. Bottom left of what you're seeing on the screen is an example of the 8-foot fencing. That will be screened weathered gray, and you have that in your sample book.
What's the name of the color?
Weathered gray.
About the center of the middle
Middle
page.
page, right, basically right in the
And the decorative metal fencing is shown next to it. That's the 4-foot fence that is out in front and runs along also Henderson Parkway.
Is there any kind of gate or anything from the side, will there be from the sidewalk?
There's a sliding gate system. There's nothing from the sidewalk. There is no access from the sidewalk to the site.
Okay,
But there is a sliding gate that goes across the driveway.
I'll tell you what, Pat,
metal fencing sliding gate or?
Correct.
Okay,
why don't you, let's go back to a site plan and walk us around the site and show us where the fencing is.
Well, the site, go to this drawing right here.
There we go.
All right, zoom in a little bit and let's kind of,
So go all the way to the bottom left, please, Brett. So
Bottom
fence
left.
symbol is shown. I wish I could control this right here, but if you look at the bottom of the underground detention creek bed, there's a symbol that has a line and a square, and there's a call out to it that says 8-foot privacy fence. That's it right there.
The line with the little dot.
So bottom left, we're circumventing existing trees. It is heavily forested in there. It is wooded. There's all sorts of natural material. We don't plan to do much with that at all. We're bound to put a fence through there per council conditions.
and that's 8 foot tall and it's that solid wood privacy fence.
Horizontal slab privacy.
Okay.
And it's 8 foot, the whole, even going up the grade, it's remains.
So if you go to the right and you go right there, the privacy fence stops,
Okay,
and then the 4-foot metal fence takes over from there. And then if you scroll all the way up, Brett,
that's where the sliding gate is for the driveway access.
correct.
Okay,
In one of your drawings, in one of the drawings, you have the fence going around the corner to the driveway.
One of what drawing?
One of the render.
That's the original rendering. Yeah, that's the original rendering.
Okay.
So that's changed
Rendering
slightly
that drawing.
because you dig into the design and put it.
Yeah.
That drawing doesn't show what you have to show for the landscape strips and the ordinance, so the fence has to move because of your ordinance.
Okay.
So that fence comes up to the 10 feet back of right of way, diagonally across, thanks Brett, and then comes across the front of the property, stops there, and then 8-foot fence takes over again.
wait, where's the 8-foot fence take over? I'm sorry.
Looks like the back corner of the building.
Is it?
Right there, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Wish I
the
could control this.
That mouse should, it's a little,
I like this.
sensitive?
Technology.
Yeah, this is no good.
Maybe you need a pad, mouse pad. Okay, so that's the 8-foot there, and then okay.
Okay, Pat,
So is the decorative fence for security reasons? Too?
Yes.
Okay.
the gate, will it be open during, operating
I'll
hours?
let the client address that one.
Okay.
I'm assuming that during business hours it is open and then it's closed. I mean,
And sort of like
there's
a little-
storing, there's the storage yard, if you will, in the back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's the need for security to secure the equipment that's allowed and the storage materials that are allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Corkle, and this may be for Mr. Owens or for the applicant, but during staff review, there was some talk about the condition for the fence, and that we don't believe that it was the intent that council wanted the fence in the front yard, but if there was absolutely going to be one, then the condition would take over with the 4-foot metal. Staff would prefer that move back, as you don't normally see in a residential building. You don't normally see a fence in the front yard. In fact, in all of our other ordinances now, we've prohibited fences basically in the front yards. So we'd prefer that you, applicant, talk about that and maybe move that back to edge
Off
of,
the building?
to edge of the building,
And I
something like
spoke
that.
with Michael Woodman about that condition because there's that tricky word in there, shall.
Yes,
So I had that conversation with Michael Woodman about that fence and the flexibility of the city where that goes and what was presented to staff or at city council. And yeah, we understand that fence has a flexibility to move from what was shown in the rendering.
perfect.
And then in talking with David Shostak about the same fence and where that fits in with the required 20-foot landscape strip and where that has to be outside of the landscape strip.
Yeah.
So what we've done our absolute best to hit those requirements and also screen it along from view as you're along Main Street or along Henderson Parkway,
Okay.
including the privacy fence on the south side.
I'm just thinking, trying to avoid it, the fence along North Main Street may make it look less,
Keep in mind it's 4 foot. Keep in mind it's black
residential.
metal decorative, and keep in mind we've got a lot of landscaping in front of it. So, and we'll work with staff on how that gets placed and where that goes, but.
I mean, I guess, if somebody's walking along the sidewalk, North Main Street, they're not gonna enter the property from North Main Street. They'll have to walk down Henderson Parkway, enter the parking lot, and then get into the.
I don't
mean, not
anticipate,
that
I'm pretty sure
this-
the
There's
client
no-
doesn't anticipate anybody walking along Main Street to get to this building.
There's no sidewalks there.
This is not a
There will be.
retail unannounced
Will there
walk.
be?
They won't have a retail store there. So any clients that come will be by invitation only, and they'll be, admitted through the gate if it's closed.
Is DOT putting a sidewalk there?
What's that?
Is DOT planning a sidewalk along?
There's sidewalk across the frontage, yes, all the
Okay.
way up and down Highway 9. City staff has already commented about asking for a pedestrian connection to that sidewalk.
Okay.
But the staff has not yet understood the nature of his business. This, like I said, it's not a retail store for walk-in traffic. It's for his employees to run their business, and if they invite clients in, it'll be on a case-by-case basis, not a random, hey, I think I want to drop in and look at pools today.
Okay.
So I can walk you through the landscaping if you'd like.
Just give us a 2 or 3 minute overview, Pat, on your.
Okay. Streetscape, we always talk about streetscape in this design review board. The trees out in front you see, which are A's, those are trident maples. The hard part here is to go between the images that are on the sheet L1. And there's a lot of, those are trident maples. We're in a way mirroring what's across the street at Duncan. And then as you round the corner, those C's are,
Magnolias.
those are magnolias, pink flowering magnolias. Give a little highlight on that corner. We're going to outshine the auto parts across the street. The B's are oaks. David Shostak had a little concern with the oaks and the acorns they drop as always, but it was last I heard he was fine with it because it's far enough back from any dropping on the sidewalk. The oaks mirror what's going on further down the street at the daycare and as you go further along on Henderson Parkway. Those are the B's, and then as you come along the council condition, which is heavily screening, all those little spiky things, those are 2 types of magnolias which are evergreen. There is green giant arborvitae, and there is eastern cedar, and roughly about 10 feet on center. And then outside of that is more evergreen screen planting as you look in from the driveway entrance. Respecting, you can see the sight distance location, respecting that as well, so that cars coming and going can navigate that unobstructed. And then as you come around that corner, it's heavily wooded. So we haven't done anything much outside of that fence line because you just can't. I think you can try and plant something there and it's not going to grow, but it's heavily wooded. 6-foot screen fence on the residential side, 8-foot screen fence for us. And then coming up the next side, again, more evergreen screening, which is some of the materials we mentioned, including cherry laurels, ligustrum. It's heavily wooded over there as well. All those little dots you see with the arrow pointing to it are it's heavily pine treed. So that whole southwest corner is heavily wooded.
Here's the 6-foot existing fence line that
Yeah, thank you,
I was
Brett.
talking about.
So you got a fence and a fence.
So there's, be the 6-foot fence there, then the tree area, and then this is their 8-foot.
The interior trees are Chinese pistache, good for parking lots, a little more denser planting areas. And lots of decorative plantings to meet that condition in the rendering. If you scroll down, Brett, to the L2 drawing, I think it's the last drawing in what Chris had given you on the flash drive. There you go. So those are the drawings that were presented to council. So you can see what we've tried to mimic as best we can with what council saw, what council approved. Obviously, the fencing is not going to stand out there all alone. So we've done what we can to highlight the areas, screen the fencing.
Yeah, now the fencing's running through the landscape. I mean, the landscaping
It
is
is.
all around the fence.
Nobody wants to see this.
Yeah.
Pat, is the site irrigated?
It will be.
Will be, okay. And then on the magnolias, I know at least the ones I have seem to always be dropping something. Any thoughts on these? Are these a little bit cleaner magnolia?
every tree drops something. Every tree on there, you
Seems
see
like
the
I'm
top,
always-
the top trees there all drop leaves in the fall, and they drop flowers in the spring. The only things that don't drop much are the arborvitaes and the cedars.
Okay.
But yeah, the one thing about a magnolia is it's a clean drop, so it's not wet where things get mushed into concrete or whatever. It's a buffer, so we've planted, it's in a buffer. And, you can't prevent leaf drop, and you can't put plastic out there, and you've got to provide variety. It's still got to be evergreen.
Okay. And then lastly, the creek bed, I know is very close to, the discharge is very close to the fence. So is it going through the fence, under the fence,
No, of course not.
around the
It'll have to
fence?
go underneath the fence.
Okay. Very good. All right, any other landscaping questions?
I was just looking at the council conditions. So the corner heavily landscaped, I think you've kind of nailed that one. The screening for the storage on the south side of the drive, you've definitely got some tall material there, so I think that's not a problem. I just wanted to ask about the north side of the drive. I guess that's is that higher than the storage area? I mean, the tallest plants there are these Encore azaleas, right, that are about 4 or 5 feet tall?
It is high, it slopes down.
The storage.
Is down below that, right?
It's depressed for a rear basement entry.
So you can see the grade lines there,
Yeah, so,
116, and then that comes up to 118, and then drops as low as 112 and below that.
right. So even though those plantings are maybe 4 or 5 feet tall, because the storage area is down below, it should be,
Yeah.
okay, should be screened well enough.
Direct sight in from the driveway.
Well, you can't do anything about direct sighting, yeah.
So this is 118 here. Mr. Corcoran, you think
Yeah.
it pretty well follows right straight through?
Correct.
So there's 6 foot between this parking area and
Yeah, at least 6, yeah.
here.
And then the plants are 4 or 5 feet tall, so, yeah.
Yeah.
You shouldn't really see anything.
Yeah, I think, and then, I mean, you've got a wall also right here that's at 118 as well.
Right.
So you got this wall here, so
That's ramping up.
that's ramping up, yeah.
And blocking site, yeah.
Yeah. What's that wall made of?
It's a basement wall, it's the same materials as the building.
Concrete with the skin of the building, same skin as the building.
Same skin as the building, okay.
Yeah, that was,
You can join mine.
Mr. Owens, that was this wall here
Go ahead.
So
and this wall, correct?
That's correct. Those are two,
These two-
like I
probably
said.
the limestone at that level?
Yes, sir.
Is there any site lighting happening here, security lighting on the site?
If there is, it'll come back if desired.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, let's talk about the building.
Okay. And I'm going to ask Mr. Frankie to come up here and help me with this description. What I have done in this packet, in your packet, we included what the city council saw, which are these colorized renderings that have the landscape in them. So please give us a little bit of grace here. These are earlier renditions of the building, but I wanted you to see how it sat on the property. I think these images did a better job of showing you that wall that I believe, Frank, you just asked about is visible here. You can see how that ramp goes up to the parking. That's not exact, but that is a good representation of that. As we've said, we reoriented the parking in the back a little bit to save those trees. So, Brett, if you go and that's, Frank, I think that's the angle you were just talking about right there.
Yep.
Yeah. You can see how that wall, that ramp screens some of that, and that area back there is. It's actually turned out to be lower than this rendering represents, the back parking lot area.
Okay.
So, Brett, you can, yeah. This is sort of a bird's eye view from the corner of Main Street and Henderson Village Parkway. I think Pat's done a much better job of the landscaping now that he's layered in the city code requirements and the conditions of council and everything else. As we said, Mr. Frankie needs that security, but at the same time, just like you guys, nobody wants that fence to stand out there by itself like a soldier, and it won't be. So you go one more, Brett. Just a top-down view, but again, from an older concept. You go a little further. Yeah, and Brett, yeah, Brett, this is a rendering of the materials that Mr. Frankie would like to use, as opposed to what you saw previously. Talking about the Texas limestone, excuse me, I almost said Tennessee limestone, but the Texas limestone water table and basement wall cladding, changing to the brick. And what is that brick, Eddie?
As far as its actual name?
Yeah,
It's a brick that we would buy from, I believe that's, North Georgia Brick carries that brick, but that's, there's a specific name for it.
but that finish is fired at, it's
Oh,
manufactured
yeah,
that way.
all of this is, the brick obviously is a manufactured product. The limestone itself is a natural product. That small representation of it doesn't really clearly show the entire color palette. There's some grays and some other hues in there that really are gonna make the limestone probably stand out a little bit.
Okay.
And, we've sliced this down so we could fit it on the board. That limestone's 4 inches thick, so, it's a true limestone that's, really, it's a very, very, very expensive, go on that. Most, even in residential homes, $1 million homes plus, they would never put the limestone on the backside of the property. It's an expense that they don't want to burden. But we've chosen to do that. Look, this is our home. This is something that generationally will be passed down. My son is a current student at University of Tennessee in construction management. He fully intends to join our group, and we're not here today to develop this property and sell it. That is not the case. I've owned this property for over 21 years, and in fact, I've owned this property before that city of Milton came into play, and before any of those residential homes were there. That was a cow pasture. So some of the things that have sort of played upon us have been no fault of ours. They've just been time, and since we've owned this property. But I didn't buy this yesterday. Again, I bought this over 20 years ago. I've been building pools since 1982. We are a bespoke pool builder. We don't hit the wham bam, thank you ma'ams. We take our time and take a lot of pride in our work, and we're taking a lot of pride in what we're doing with this building.
That's good. We appreciate that. Chris, or somebody walk us through the different material, this rendering that we're looking at now.
Correct.
Walk us through where the different materials are, please.
Brett, could you maybe go to the next slide and see if there's one that's a little bit more head-on that, let's go.
Tough to see that, yeah.
It's hard to, and forgive me, the computer renderings aren't very forgiving. If you could zoom,
Here down.
yeah, if you could zoom in on that, Brett.
You can kind of see where the porch meets. That's the limestone down, what would normally be called a water table.
Yeah.
Then from the limestone up, it's going to be all brick, except this gable will be limestone.
So that's limestone.
That's going to be
down.
limestone. Yeah, with a couple gas lanterns out there.
All right.
The dormers really are for effect. They don't, they don't serve any purpose other than to look nice. And then,
The trim color?
that's the trim color.
That's the roof color.
Yeah, we chose to go with a metal roof. We thought that just would really be a very nice look and something that is not going to tarnish over time and really go well with that brick and limestone.
Are the doors and windows black?
They're going to be either black or a very dark bronze. Probably the front door is going to be black. I'm going to get an iron, one of those nice iron doors, custom made for that front. And then the windows will be a clad, the aluminum clad by Pella or Marvin, but they're gonna probably be a very dark bronze or black.
Okay, thank you.
So they'll look just like this. Okay. So is this front door an active front door?
Yeah, that's going to be, we've got a handicap access through the side, so there's
Okay.
one door there, and then obviously you can come in through the basement. But this is going to be where we come in to our office every day, through the front door.
So you'll park in the kind of the rear, I guess?
No,
or the
we're going to we got that parking on the side.
Side, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of like our,
Bounce back to that.
we got pickup trucks that we drive to work.
That was a good one.
Sort of the trailers and some of our machinery. So it'll be this one up here. That's where we're going to park and go in. Our equipment and things like that will be down below.
Okay. So this is essentially employee access then, I guess,
Back.
or even a possible customer, I guess?
Visitor, yeah.
If a visitor, we're by appointment only, and traditionally, swimming pools,
other way.
as far as their sales and the way in which we conduct our business is a lot different than it used to be.
Right there.
People used to come to the showroom. You used to have displays on there. That's just not that way anymore, and we don't want to do a display. That's, here today and gone tomorrow, so.
Well, you go to your customers'
We
homes
go
and
to
show
the
them.
home, because we need to see their yard. So we do a nice 3D presentation that we send to them electronically. We view it at their home. We're not going to have materials here to choose from. We've got a design showcase up off McGinnis Ferry. And so, no, it would be rare that a customer comes here. Even it used to be the customer came to the store and signed the contract. Well, you can do everything by email now.
Yeah.
The funds are electronically transferred. It's It's a whole different world. So yeah, the need for customers to come and go at this building would be very minimum.
On the slide that's up right now, is the sidewalk gonna be concrete, or from this, it looks like brick or something?
Well, our sidewalk will not be concrete. No, we'll be pavers. You know, we're gonna have
So
a nice.
So that's walk that you're gonna take to go into that front door will be
Exactly,
pavers.
yeah.
Did you bring a sample of your pavers? Okay.
And are these 3 windows, are they,
Those
they
windows are
look like the
active.
re-
Those windows are active. Those are
Okay.
offices on the side there, yes.
okay, thank you.
Right.
So on, I guess, okay, let's see, let's compare rendering.
Any gutters?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Yeah, it'll
both
be guttered.
aesthetically and functionally, from an engineering standpoint, we have to collect the rainwater and direct it where we want.
Yeah.
And also, we don't want it to cause damage to the foundation or stain the limestone or anything like that. So,
So the gutters would likely match the roof color
okay.
as opposed to the trim color.
How far along is your architect on these drawings?
We're, unbeknownst to us, we were zoned residential commercial. So a year ago, that's why we had to get the variance for the overnight parking. It's really not outdoor storage. We're not looking to store anything outside other than our cars and trucks. So that is what's taken us some time. And so, no, we've been ready to go for a while. We're ready.
So your architect has drawings already prepared, ready to turn in for permit?
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay. So, because one thing I was going to ask is to make sure that staff has this, is identifying materials on these renderings. You know, we're talking about it here, but identifying what is the brick, where's the
He shows it
limestone?
brick and stone. He doesn't call out the specific brick
Well-
or specific stone.
That's what we want to see.
So we're happy to document that with you and Brett so that the staff can follow along when the
Yes.
permits
Yep.
plans come through. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then how about, I know you have some restrooms or bathrooms inside, how about any stacks or roof vents or anything like that? Where is that happening?
So any kind of roof penetrations will be on the back side of the eave, obviously. There's no rooftop equipment. You know, this is a residential scale building, so the HVAC equipment will be on the right side as you see it here, over in the landscape towards the rear. So there won't be any HVAC equipment
Yes.
visible. It'll be ground mounted and hidden in the landscape.
So one thing I noticed with the roof color, you've got everything very light. Would you consider making that roof a little darker color to get a little not like real dark, because I know
No.
there's an environmental issue there, but it's a,
That light colored roof is the look we want, number one. And number two, the reflection of the sun and how that attic heats up and how our building is cooled in the summer. That's that's the look that we want. And I can appreciate everybody's input, but
I personally like.
Mike and I got to live with this building forever, and these are the materials we chose. We do this for a living, and I think our tastes are pretty high up there. So
Right,
I
the
think
other-
the look and everything.
for a living,
it's all
too.
working together is going to be.
We gotta live with it too, so.
Yeah.
Well, the other concern, Frank, is that, the available colors of standing seam metal is to get out of a stock color. His concern as well to go darker would be a lot darker, not just a little bit darker. They don't, at least this manufacturer, the darker shade was not something that we want to consider. Not opposed to it, just,
Barrage has.
it's not like mixing paint at Sherwin-Williams when you pick a
Barrage.
metal roof color.
Manufacturer.
Yeah.
Metal roofing too, so.
Yeah, I don't know how the other board members feel. I just think a little more contrast on the building would be more attractive than it all being sort of very monotone.
And then looking at the front elevation that we have on our monitors right now, is there opportunity to put some more windows on the flanking wing walls there?
We could do something that would sort of maybe look like have you ever seen you see it down on the panhandle of Florida, where they sort of would have what would be normally a window, call it, and they'd have sort of that shutter that sort of opens up and looks like there's a window there. You follow what I'm saying?
Picture frame the brick.
Yeah. I mean, we could do something like that, quite frankly.
Or you,
The front door is the front door. The window to the right and the window to the left is my office and Mike's office. So those little outsets on the building is our bathroom, our shower, and our closet for each one of us, so it's a private, for our offices. So trying to put a window there is gonna be a little tough, but we could make it look like.
Maybe make it look like a window was there that's been filled in.
And I put like a shutter, exactly what I've got on that dormer. Only it wouldn't be a dormer, it'd just be flat, but it would give it a nice look, because it would be a wood
think-
shutter over
But
what
there's no
otherwise
shutters
would be a window.
anywhere
Are you
else.
talking about maybe picture framing the brick so that the brick looks like it's been, an old window frame's been filled in rather than putting shutters on the outside?
I don't think, you don't have shutters anywhere on this building
Yeah.
right now, so
We
there's
talking
no
about just
sense.
playing around with the brick depth to make it
Yeah.
look like an old window
You do a
frame.
recessed.
I could do that, and then I could do the brick and herringbone.
Well, you do it the same size of the windows that you have there now, so it looks like there was a window there, but it's been filled in at some
Oh, yeah, we can
type
do
thing. But it's recessed, so that it gives you some,
Now,
That
shadow-
wouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah, that's just your brick mason shadow
No,
boxing.
no, that would enhance the look,
Well-
we'd be wide open for that.
Yeah.
or you could do herringbone if you want. You're just trying to get some recess, some depth, and a shadow in there to
Yeah.
make it
Yeah,
look
and
like.
maybe the herringbone would make it pop a little bit, whatever we think would help the aesthetics of the building, we're totally open to that.
Okay. And then you said those are gas lights on the.
Those are gonna be two gas lanterns. We may choose to do one bigger one over the top of the door, but that is gonna be gas lit.
Pick one or two?
I think I'd prefer to have one over the top.
One over the top, so it
Yeah.
would be in the middle over
The middle of those,
door.
Hanging from
of the
the
double
peak of the-
door hanging up, it's gonna be mounted onto the stone.
What's your architect showing?
I think he's showing two.
He's showing us right now. His plans show what you see right now, but if there's a desire to change that, we'll make sure the architect edits the plans before they go in for permit.
Okay. Any other lights on the outside of the building?
I think what we would probably do is we may have on the back and the front corners, just some very small sublime floodlights that might be motion censored, but they would go on, we just leave them on for motion, but at the end of the day, we are a landscape group as well, so we're gonna landscape uplighting the building. So the building will be uplit and those lights will stay on all night.
Okay.
The front porch material would be brick pavers, similar to what you're talking about with the sidewalk, or something else?
Yeah, sidewalk.
The same thing, okay.
There was okay.
And where are we talking about putting the windows? So there's just those wings that are way
Yeah.
out here?
Yes.
on the wing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good,
Yeah, so that's why my question, there's like two flat areas there. Where were we talking about?
That is, again, yeah, that's where our bathroom and closet is. So we could put something on the
Talking
front
about
and
the-
on the side, so we could add
even-
two on each side to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, even on that side right there too.
yeah, so that it mimics the two functioning windows in
Yes.
that rear pod,
Yeah,
rear
that'd be
portion.
good.
Yep.
Okay, any other architectural questions, exterior elevations and
Can you
materials?
hold that roof sample up to that brick?
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind? Thank you.
You're gonna get a different effect in here than you would outside in the sun.
Oh, yeah.
But there's more contrast there than I think is.
Well, and I guess we'll have the Dover white, and then black gutters, I guess, are gonna be. Or bronze, black or bronze.
No, he said gutters were gonna be.
Gutters are gonna match the roof, I think.
Oh, okay, so they'd be like kind of silvery.
Trim, whatever, I think they would probably match the gutter. But now, you know what, I take that back, and we'll have to dial that in.
You want those gutters to match your trim so they disappear.
Match the trim, so when the downspout comes down, it matches the trim.
So you're gonna have creamy gutters,
Yeah, because you don't
or
want
Dover white gutters.
you don't want to drive by and say, wow, what nice gutters. You don't, you want those to disappear, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
and that's a standing seam roof too, so it's not just
It's gonna
flat.
have, yeah.
It's, yeah.
The other thing too, looking at that rendering is to make sure the dormer windows then are either the dark bronze or black.
Have the dormer windows match the,
They're not windows, that's just a shutter in there.
you want to have, basically paint that framing to match those windows down below.
Are those dormers, are they windows? They're
It's
not.
a shutter, so that's a
Oh, it's not shown as a shutter here, is it?
It's a shutter on the inside, is that what you're saying?
shutter on the outside.
On the outside, okay. It looks
Looks like a window to me.
it does, yeah, okay.
Can you zoom in on that, Brett? See there, Richard, it's,
Oh, it's like a louvered thing, like.
Yeah.
It's louvered.
Okay,
is.
Louvered shutter.
Okay.
That's what it is.
You see those a lot in the attics. You
So basically attic ventilation, is that,
Yeah.
so it actually is,
Just something that gave our roof a little more pizzazz.
Instead of it being a big slab up there.
Yeah, the dormers
just
look
too
nice,
much.
yeah.
We need a little color up there, some
Yeah.
contrast.
Yeah, yeah, I like the dormers. It's similar, I guess, to the one on the side of the building. You have one shown on the side of the building too. I think that's a
On
little,
the side of the building is a functional roof attic vent.
okay,
And then that's also brick up there on the side of the dormers too.
yeah,
So,
that's nice.
good. Okay. All right, thank you for that. Anything else on exterior elevation materials?
I think so.
Okay.
I did a quick question on the decorative, the gate. So will you have that closed all the time? I mean.
Probably when we come into work, whether, look, and, you know, if it's a rainy day, whether we come to work or not that day, I don't know. We're certainly not going to come to work on Sundays. We don't do that. But if we're there, the gate will be open. If we're not there, the gate will be
Is
closed.
it like one of those clicker things? Okay, so you don't have like a thing, you push the button, you talk to you, and
Well, we'll have that. We'll have that. But
where will that be?
in the driveway.
Okay,
Yeah.
like in the middle of the driveway?
No, it's a key. It would be a keypad.
Somebody'd have to get out.
Like on one of those black posts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like right outside the gate on the left-hand side.
I mean, my guys will be coming and going. They'll just hit the keypad and drive on in.
Yeah,
It'll be in the landscape
will be, yeah.
on the left side of the drive, not sitting in the middle of the drive. Because, because what she's talking about is a lot of times you go into a place that's a keypad, it'll be in the middle of the drive,
Right.
right? So when you're coming in,
This
This will be on the right side
It'll
because
just-
you're coming in the right. When you leave, the gate will have a sensor that opens it. And then it'll close within a period of time.
Okay.
And yeah, the gates are not going to open like this.
just slide, yeah.
Slide.
Won't you have it on your left side, so it's out the driver window?
Yeah, it'd probably be left side, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
anything?
I was like, is that
To
me?
Holly's point, it won't be in the middle of the.
Yeah. It's not
gonna be
it won't
in the
an
middle.
Yeah,
aisle.
like, you know how like a lot of those have like. a-
If it's in the middle, sooner or later, it'll be on the ground.
Yeah. Brett, could you go towards the end of the presentation? Mr. Frankie took a picture of this limestone in a column. It was constructed into a column that had better light on it to show you the variation of, there it is. Maybe zoom, there we go.
Yeah, so just look at the house. You know, that's the Texas limestone that we're using. So you can see that it does have,
Texas limestone.
it's a Texas Looters limestone. So it's got some nice
So it's been stolen.
variation, not extreme, but it's got some nice variation.
Some grays,
nice.
some browns. Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I have a quick question for you about your work trucks. Do they have audible reverse alarms on them? And how do you disable them?
That's for me to handle.
We don't have that on our trucks.
How
We
do you-
have that on our equipment. But,
Okay, I'm just curious.
yeah, but it's on the equipment, like our skid steers and things like that. That
Okay.
has a beeper.
And you can turn that off?
Well, you're not going to be operating skid steers on this property.
Yeah, no, we don't want to turn that off. That's
Okay.
a safety thing.
I didn't think you could turn it off. Okay.
I mean, we're not going to be grading there. We're just,
No,
no.
Ready for motion?
yes, we are.
All right.
Oh, before you say that, is there any public comment about this application? Any public comment? All right, there
right.
being no public comment, now we can proceed to motions.
Regarding DRB 230001, I move that we approve the site plan as presented today. End of motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by DRB member Rocco and a second by DRB member Palmer. Any comments or questions about the motion to approve the site plan? All right, there being no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the site plan or the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed, no opposition. All right, site plan is approved 5-0.
All right.
Okay.
And I'm gonna make a motion on elevation of materials, and just for you guys, I'm not suggesting any changes. These are clarifications to things we talked about today, based on things we talked about today. So, Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 230001, Custom Pools of Atlanta, motion to approve elevation of materials as presented with the following conditions and clarifications. Applicant will submit the details of the materials that were shown today to staff. The window and the door color will be black or dark bronze, similar to what's shown in the renderings. The gutters and downspouts will match the trim.
Hang on, Frank. Tracy, are you following?
Applicant will add bricked-in faux windows on the right and left wings of the building as discussed today. And the specifics on the front lanterns will be submitted to staff for approval and a motion.
Okay. A motion by Board Member Swing, a second by Board Member Rhodes. Any comments or questions about the motion? Well done. All right, there being no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, we still got landscaping to do.
Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 220001 Custom Pools of Atlanta, motion to approve the landscaping as submitted with the clarification that the on-site walkway pavers will be submitted to staff for final approval and a motion.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Board Member Swing, a second by Board Member Rocco. Any comments or questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 5-0. Very good. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, quick question, clarification. Did these motions encompass the fencing presented and the stain color for the fence? You all feel satisfied that that was?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it was
Just wanna make-
presented, so. All right. Katie Rocco. All right, our next applicant this morning is off leash. Give the previous applicant just a minute or two to collect all their materials and everything. And then we will go. Do you want to take,
And Teresa and I will participate in order to make
so,
it.
so yes, both
Thanks, good job.
Board Member Rhodes and Board Member Swing will participate in the off-leash application. Board Member Palmer will take over as chairman, and I will recuse myself.
Archive?
Okay. Very good. Let me get out of the way here. Changing of the guard.
Question is this, there were 5.
Take that with me. That's that, that's that. See you, Chris. Thank you.
The staff, there's actually 4. Black dark windows, gutter downspout fence trim, faux windows, front lanterns. I think there's only 4 here. My question is, did that get to them somehow?
Yeah, so it's just the elevations and materials, so the lights, I mean, they were presented as 2, so if we're gonna do 1, you gotta get that to me. Yeah, that would get everything.
I was sitting up here, I wouldn't approve the elevation.
You know what?
I wouldn't approve those elevations.
No.
At the front. Why? Because they weren't specific. It has my. I hate that.
I do too.
What'd you say?
It works better if you stand over here, but it doesn't
Well,
work.
when he said, this is what I do for a living, this is the way it's gonna be, I was like,
I think we're scheduled for February now. The parts are all in for our technology upgrade in this room, so hopefully
You didn't miss it.
we won't have to cobble stuff together in the future.
I did this, I'm like, I can see it. Okay.
You're one more over, Holly.
Oh, you're taking over.
One more seat over.
Oh, yeah, I guess I am. Oh, then my computer.
I mean, I can see what, we know what they're doing. I mean, it was presented, they showed the material, they just didn't know what they did was.
You know, I like the brick and
Yeah.
I like materials.
Yeah, I did too. So off leash is just landscape? Oh, landscaping and lighting.
You did a really good job there, Ted. Yeah. See, I mean, you had stuff, you wrote stuff on the drawing and everything.
I did.
It wasn't in red. Well, that's what this is for. You need to- if you
We didn't see pictures of the lighting?
Teresa's out for this as well, right, Tracy? Just picture. Hang on one second. Ms. Rhodes, were you here for the first off-leash presentation? No, neither her or I. Oh, but we only have three, so you need to make that. So we're adding everybody in.
I like Tracy's introduction at the very beginning of the DRB meeting, but I like to hear from her, and it was well done.
So what you're saying is I didn't do as good a job?
You can read into that. I just want to hope it's on the record.
Tracy will put it in the record, so we're good. No, I just, I mean, it was like an hour and a half ago that we talked about that, so I completely forgot that we didn't have a quorum, so it is a long time ago. Okay, we're good. I will tell you, though, for what we can't do when we enter new folks in is talk about anything, try to change anything that's already been approved.
Sure.
So we're basically just looking at lighting and landscape. We can reference back, which I think, I would imagine he's got his elevations in. If not, I put them in your packet just as reference. But we can't go back to those.
Okay. All right, so we have off-leash. We're going to be reviewing landscape and site lighting. If you would introduce yourself and give us an overview of your presentation, please.
Hello, Josh Word, architect on behalf of Off Leash. We do have our client here again with us today, if you do have any questions for them. As has already been stated, we're here again after last month to review updates that we've made to the landscaping that were requested, as well as some additional information on the site lighting. Brett, to your comment, I don't have the elevations in this. I kept it to just.
If they want them for reference, I can pull them up pretty easy.
Right. So the first slide was the site plan that's been just slightly tweaked from the last time. The site plan was approved, but there was updates requested by David Shostak, which has really only affected the on-street parking on Norcross Street. And the only reason I bring that up is because that also had an effect on the landscape plan as well. So I'll turn it over to Michael to talk about the landscape. I will note, as he jumps into that, this is a slightly different version than what was in your packet. After that was submitted, there was a lot of conversation and coordination with David Shostak to really clarify and refine the streetscape along Old Milton. So that's the only area there should be deviation. And it really just had to do with street trees and understory trees, the mix of understory and canopy trees. But I'll turn it over to Michael for that.
Quick question for staff. Was there any council conditions on the landscaping for this?
There was.
You get them?
No. Well, I'm playing catch-up here a bit. I didn't think I was participating in this one.
Share with you.
So I'm a little less prepared than I would have been otherwise.
You've got them, Mr. Corkle?
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, as I believe they pertain to site and landscape.
Okay.
So I don't know whose writing that is at the top, but
You'll check them though,
I will check.
for us? Okay. All right.
You can go ahead.
I thought Pat was going to read the condition, sorry.
Oh,
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, so Michael Toothaker with Gaskins LaCraw, good to meet with you guys again. And as Josh stated, I've worked extensively with Brett and with Dave Shostak on staff since our last meeting to really dial this in, make sure we've addressed DRB's concerns from last time, as well as making sure we've addressed all of the kind of the code-related concerns as well. And the majority of that really being, this mouse is, can you center that up for me, please?
Just throw that against the wall.
Yeah. So a couple of concerns from the last DRB was the screening around the dumpster. We previously had some columnar blue Atlas. Those have been replaced with Nellie R. Stevens at 10 feet on center now, based on some correspondence back and forth with the city. Also, the frontage along Main Street. Previously, we had shown trident maples and redbuds, and then with overhead power lines and some, again, correspondence back and forth, I think with both DRB and with Dave. The trident maples have been replaced. We're now using a mix of cherries and dogwoods. There are no canopy trees there due to the overhead utilities. And then also last time we had continued the understory plantings along Old Milton as well. However, there are no overhead power lines there, so those have now been updated. And it's a mix of canopy and understory. And the biggest reason for the understory and working with Showstack is that I couldn't get all of the trees to be canopy trees and meet the minimum spacing requirements for those canopy trees. So Dave has suggested we go back and add in understory. So we've added in a couple dogwoods there to kind of create some cohesiveness along Old Milton, and then as you turn the corner onto Highway 9. Those were the two main things that we've been working with staff. And then also back along Norcross Street, before we didn't have, we really didn't have much of anything for the planter strip or for the required on-site landscape strip, and all that now has been planted in accordance with the code, again, using similar plant materials as we've used along Highway 9 and Old Milton, again, just to try to create a cohesive look and feel for the whole site. So we've got a mix of oaks, hornbeams, dogwoods, cherries, and ginkgos that kind of wrap the site now. And then also, another comment that came up last time in DRB was the location of the fencing in relation to the 10-foot landscape strip. We have since moved the fencing for the dog park portion of this 5 feet back from the landscape strip as required by code. And then also we've made sure to provide the double row of evergreen shrubs along Old Milton as well per code. Those were the big items that came up. Those were the changes that made. And then, like I said, I've worked extensively with Brett and with Mr. Shostak to get us to where we are today.
So, and the fence, just for reference, is the line with the intermediate squares that you
Correct.
see just covering right off the tree line.
Was the fence approved at the last meeting?
The style was.
The style,
Yeah, the style's the metal wrought iron with brick columns to match the building.
Okay.
And then the large kind of white portion in the middle of the dog park area is a synthetic turf, similar to what's right here at downtown Green.
Michael, the street tree, which is labeled as a cypress on the entry drive,
Yep,
what cypress are those?
it's just a bald cypress.
So those will be limbed up?
Yeah, they'd be limbed up, at least 4, if not 6 feet. Probably needs to be at least 6 feet because there's a sidewalk under, but they'll be limbed up enough for that sidewalk to function. But I wanted something that was kind of not a true evergreen, but had an evergreen feel to it to kind of screen the dog park, so when you're back there with your dog and, you don't constantly hear the cars coming in and out of the driveway.
And was the requirement to put it in that beauty strip? How wide is that beauty strip? My concern is those things are gonna start getting clipped, especially when they're little, clipped by trucks, clipped by any of that stuff. Was it the city's requirement to put in that little beauty strip? Or can we move those back on the other side of walk?
Did ask us to put plants in the planting strip there. Even though it was-
Specifically that one? How
Well,
wide is that?
I can ask Showstack, if I can move them to the other side of the sidewalk, I mean, I get what you're at, right? As the canopy grows and cars are coming in and out,
Especially when they're little.
so, I mean, I have no problem moving them to the back side of the sidewalk.
Let's just condition that and not leave it up to, because the strip is only what, 4 feet wide?
4 or 5 feet wide, the same as the strip between,
Because
the sidewalk and the back.
the sidewalk is a minimum 5 feet, because it can't be any smaller in Alpharetta.
Right.
So that landscape strip is 3 feet, maybe 4 feet?
It should be drawn at 4, which was,
So we'll just condition that to move them out of that strip. Drives me nuts.
Just these.
Yeah,
Yes, just
that
those.
row of cypress right there leading.
Unless you beauty strip, something goes 5 feet, then it's. And then the trees out on Old Milton, they are hawthorns and ginkgos behind it?
So the planter strip, the 4-foot planter strip between the back curb and the sidewalk, those are hawthorns, or not hawthorns, hornbeams.
I think I said hawthorns, sorry.
Those are
One of
hornbeams.
those H words.
And then behind it is a mix of oaks and ginkgos.
Okay.
And then with some dogwoods for understory mixed in.
The only comment I have with that is that where there are competing canopies, that we kind of triangulate the competing canopies and then mix in the smaller understory trees. So in particular, I see a hornbeam that's crossing into a ginkgo.
yeah, so they're not side by side.
Yeah, so just trying to triangulate those and then work your understories around that. I think it'd just be a better look in between.
Okay.
And then as long as David's cool with all the utilities out front, and he's always okay with the trees out there.
Yeah,
And, you've got so much stuff, and I'm still not convinced that where the power lines are, so we're always forced to put it 10 feet back of there, and I don't think you've got through, but you'll work through staff with that sort of stuff. I'm good with all that. I think you've hit what you need to do as far as the screening requirements along Old Milton.
Yeah, it feels like a forest when you're in there trying to squeeze it all in.
Right. And I understand what council's trying to do, but yeah, you're forcing in some stuff. Anything else? I'm just gonna march through the conditions here in a second.
If you want to touch on I can go through the rest of the stuff really quickly. It's just mostly the lighting piece left. Can you go to the next slide, Brett? So I just wanted to show this quick. This is something that came up as a question. It wasn't specifically a condition, but it was a concern that someone had asked about. What is the edge detail of that turf material? So this is the product and the edge detail that we intend to follow. Not literally the rocks as the softscape edge. It would be mulch, but there would be essentially a nailer system placed in the ground that the turf material would fold down into the ground, attached to, and then the plant material or the softscape material would abut that, and that would follow the line you saw on the last plan. If you can go ahead.
There was one question that came up earlier on from one of the board members, and I think it was in relation to the synthetic turf and the trees that were
Yeah, so-
around it. Is that
So that the squiggle line you see is our new proposed edge. We had previously had it following the fence line, but because that we're preserving a lot of the existing trees that are in that property, we've now kind of made that a more organic barrier so that there's some softscape that can happen under those trees so that the roots aren't being covered up by the turf material specifically.
Essentially, it meanders in and out of the root zones.
so it gives the trees more?
Yeah, so well, there was two things. So the turf that we're proposing is permeable, as you can see in that second detail. So that was one thing. Even though it is permeable, it'll obviously allow more infiltration if it's not there. The second, someone had a concern with potentially with the amount of heat that turf can build up on in the middle of a day, and whether or not that would be damaged by raising the temperature of the dirt below it. So just to appease any of those concerns, we went ahead and moved it out from under those tree canopies.
On the screen, what is the material? There's a hatch between the synthetic turf, which is, there's no hatch for it. And yeah, right along there, what does that hatch represent just outside of the synthetic turf?
That's mulch, pine straw. It's a softscape. I mean, I think we're going with pine straw right now, is my understanding.
Okay.
Basically, the drip lines under everything, instead of just leaving it raw or whatever's there, they, during construction, they, put fresh layers of pine straw down.
With dogs and all that stuff, you might find hardwood bark mulch better than pine straw. Pine straw tends to hide a lot of bombs.
They also get torn up.
Yeah.
Because from personal experience.
Yeah, we can certainly make that a mulch material as well. Open to that. If you want to move ahead real quick, Brett. So here's our updated site lighting plan. So the primary concern that was raised before was getting the light poles out of the tree islands at the parking area. So we've done that. It's now, they've been placed or rotated around so that they are adjacent to the walkways in between tree islands instead of in the islands themselves. And then the rest of the poles have also been slightly relocated from what you've seen previously to be between the existing trees. So we tried to make sure that they were outside of the existing tree canopy so that they are actually eliminating as much of the turf and where, the intended active areas are meant to be. So, and then just to reiterate, I mentioned it last time, but I'll reiterate again, the pole closest to the dumpster location and the pole that's right there in the middle of the screen, those are existing poles that we are just proposing to rehead in this case. The rest of them are new. So this is the proposed head. It's fully shielded to try to minimize light pollution, but still provide enough illumination on the ground for safety, so that in evening times it can still be occupied. If you go down one more. We also previously didn't have a spec sheet specifically on the pole, but that's what the next spec sheet is. It's just be a square pole. And these will all be black. That's highlighted there on that portion of the cut sheet, but I know the graphic showed a silver, but they're all intended to be black to match the sort of
Do
black.
any of these show the color of the light? They're LEDs, but is there a detail on what color?
About the temperature? Oh, there it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
Color temp.
4,000.
4,000s?
Yeah.
Okay. We don't like to get into the fives or higher.
Not bright white, but
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
but not a yellow light either.
Yeah, four's fine. 2, 3, and 4 is what this board is kind of centered on in downtown is the good light color.
Okay.
So,
We'll make sure it's maxed out at 4 then.
And it came up in the pre-meeting, existing streetlights along Main Street, has that, whatever that might be, has that been coordinated with this lighting plan, so there's not
Yeah, so
carryover of
we're
any
not
of
showing
that?
any poles, except the one directly adjacent to the entry drive. That's intended to only illuminate outward towards the parking, but yeah, there is existing street lamps along South Main. We are adding new street lamping to the sidewalks on Old Milton and Norcross.
so this one would be a single head just facing into the parking lot.
Yeah, well, it is showing 2 heads there, one to just illuminate the drive, to make sure, that because there's trees there, we don't want it to get too dark there. But we're trying to minimize the amount of throwback
Yeah.
there.
Are these the lights that are out, like where the dogs would play, do those stay on all night long?
They would stay on during business hours in the park area, is the intention.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
We can go through these conditions.
Yeah, you
real
want to go
quick.
through the conditions? That'd be good.
The first one doesn't really relate to this one because we've already approved the architecture and materials. There was a percentage of brick versus other materials. Outdoor furniture, dining area and dog park, and play equipment with primary or bright colors shall be screened from the public right of way. I think we've screened it. I don't think you necessarily presented specifically the materials, but it's being screened from the street, so I think we're covered there.
Yeah, we've got both the physical wall that screens the side of the patio as well as all the planting material we're adding.
Landscape strip material should be planted in the front of any proposed fencing. Fencing visible from right of way. We already talked about fencing and it's been approved. No more than black metal, no more than 6 feet in height. Developer shall improve Old Milton Parkway streetscape with a minimum 4-foot planter planted with street trees, subject is approved by GDOT. Minimum 8-foot sidewalk and decorative pedestrian lighting as approved by staff. Staff will carry on with the decorative lighting along there, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Developer shall improve Norcross Street streetscape with a minimum 4-foot planter planted with street trees, minimum 5-foot sidewalk and decorative pedestrian lighting as approved by staff. We moved those trees out of there.
Yeah, that's the area you were talking about.
Well, this, I think that, my understanding is that condition isn't, what we just talked about was along the private drive.
Okay.
Yep.
The condition is specifically for the area abutting the on-street parking on Norcross.
Fair enough. Okay.
Was the decorative pedestrian lighting, was that covered already?
Staff.
Staff.
Staff, okay.
It's, yeah, it's just to follow the city's standard
Yep.
model.
Okay.
Project entrance on South Main Street shall be landscaped with ornamental plantings as approved by DRB. We marched through that last time.
Yeah,
Yep.
last time, that was the one you were good with last time.
The one you were good with.
The one thing.
Trees shall be saved as depicted on the tree protection plan prepared by Gaskins and LaCroix. Good.
We haven't made any changes to what was proposed last time. We're trying to keep as many as we possibly can.
There are those that are catching up, and I think they're gonna. Dumpster enclosures shall consist of materials similar to those on the building and shall be metal and opaque. We already talked about that last time.
Yep.
And you've hit our concerns last time with screening it with evergreen material. So those were the conditions as I understand them.
Yep, I think we got them all.
Okay, good.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Is there any public comment? No? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion? We're doing site lighting and landscaping.
I will make a motion regarding DRB 220048 off leash, that the lighting and landscape is approved with the condition that the entrance drive street trees off of Norcross Street shall be moved to the back of the sidewalk, out of the thin landscape strip, to avoid canopy interference with street traffic. End of motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Corkle, a second by Mr. Swing. Is there any discussion?
I just had one real quick thing. There are trees being saved up near that entrance. So you may not be able to do anything with those to move them underneath that canopy. So work with staff on that.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay, 5-0.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, board.
I think so.
Yeah, you said
I'm
landscape.
not doing any more.
You said landscape and lighting, right?
Thanks, y'all.
Yep.
Take a short break. Call a 5-10 minute break or 5 or 10 minute break.
Okay, we're gonna take a short break while y'all set up, and we can go fill our coffee.
Which one of these was
Bring
yours?
the
Orange one?
back.
There you go, and here's your,
I think I get to
all right, thanks, good job.
Move to the back side of the sidewalk.
All right.
So Teresa and I are done now, because Richard's coming back, you'll have a quorum.
You guys are good to go.
Well done.
Thanks. You too.
All right, I'm out of here.
All right, have fun. Thank you for being here this morning.
Absolutely.
Sorry, you missed-
Always a pleasure.
It is. Thank you. Yes, and Frank is too.
More than Frank did as vice chair.
Boom, there it is. There it is.
That's how you're gonna be.
A little anarchy in 23.
Yeah, Holly's got some trash talk going on.
Oh, my gosh.
This was yours, do you want it?
Supposed to be nice to each other.
I like some colors in there.
Mr. Chairman, she started it.
She started, okay, all right,
Started it.
very good. All right, have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.
You're in
Thanks for being here this morning.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
On this new role
Thanks.
You need Frank.
for your service.
We would have elected you if you were here on time every Friday, but
That's right.
If you're just here.
See how that worked out?
I'm just happy I beat out Holly and.
What you need? Oh, will you turn?
it was a hard fought election.
It really was, wasn't it?
Lots of mudslinging.
I'm gonna turn it, yeah, I just was gonna do that, in fact. All right, y'all, have a good rest of the
See
meeting.
ya, thank you.
See you in February.
See you, Frank.
See y'all.
Pat, this is gonna be easy, right? Just a landscape plan review?
Well, I'd like easy to find.
Simple,
You know
not
you're
easy.
going to anyway.
Yeah.
What do they do with colors? No.
You have, oh, you have 3 without me, so I do
Wait,
have
no,
to
it
sit
goes this
here.
way, right? When you zone out, you just can go all.
Can we get on TikTok while you're doing this?
You can do whatever you want to do.
Has it been banned in the city of Alpharetta?
Nope, I'm looking bad at
Are some cities banning it? Are some cities banning it?
Oh, yeah.
States, there's some
The federal government did.
federal government, there's colleges,
State's doing it.
all Georgia colleges have banned it.
Anything that's government associated is slowly but surely banning it. On their equipment.
On their equipment or if you get on their Wi-Fi. I mean,
Because there's some sort of spy, something is what they're saying.
Tracking.
And we don't think that the government's tracking us with our iPhones and Alexas and.
Everybody's tracking us.
have you never sat down and talked about something and next thing you know, you get a big.
Oh, all the time, and it's not through,
Creepy.
it's not because of TikTok, it's because of these.
That's why I am off the bid.
But nice
I'm about to
diversion.
be, as soon as my kid graduates, I'm off this, but.
I get
Okay.
my husband's Google search on my computer.
Yes.
It pops up in like the news, like the homepage. Very strange.
Right?
Very strange.
And I was like, is this subliminal gift giving messaging? I don't know.
Alexa, are you listening?
You're on to something.
Neat.
Okay,
Right, yeah, right? Yes.
Meru Restaurant.
Okay,
All right,
yes.
good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Sarah Spencer here, representing Frawley Associates for the Meru Restaurant property at 2500 North Point Court. Here as kind of a deferral from last time. And we have a few more answers and are also currently working on a few additional answers after I had a meeting with David and our project arborist Heidi Harrington on the site on Wednesday. So I have a few more questions on that. Regarding the landscape, I know one of the main points of concern was how we were going to provide the pedestrian connection into the site. I'm not sure if that's where you guys wanted to start or where you might want to start just based on.
We can start there.
Okay. So currently, there is a fabulous new pedestrian facility, curb, ramp, sidewalk, pedestrian signal, that's all been added to that corner right there. They graciously put their traffic signal box pretty much right in the middle of our property line there, our view shed up into the site. that and coupled with the grade change and the curb ramp style, that was, and essentially eliminated that as our potential pedestrian connection. It just wasn't gonna work. So we had another strategy, and so we decided there is an existing mature oak tree there on the landscape frontage of North Point Court that is in poor condition, has fungal bodies. David confirmed that yes, it is in poor condition, hazardous. Our project arborist did too. So what we were proposing was to remove that tree. In its place, that would be our pedestrian connection. That's also the easiest access-wise as far as a kind of barrier-free entrance into the site. So we are proposing a 6-foot concrete sidewalk there, curb ramp down to our pedestrian crossing. That would be the vehicular pavers inset within the 12-inch concrete bands to then another pedestrian barrier-free ramp up the other side, kind of into our plaza of our restaurant.
So which tree was that? Can you just?
It's pretty much was right there. We have it on our tree replacement plan.
Okay.
But it was another oak, I believe about 12-inch or so oak tree that was there.
Is Maru responsible for the trash can, like emptying that trash can? It says there's a litter receptacle.
I believe so. Would you guys be taking the trash out with the rest of the restaurant trash? Yes, yeah.
Well, it says right here.
It was going to be for that one, it was for the North Point overlay connection, so that would be your Victor Stanley, pretty standard black metal trash can, and then a 4-foot Victor Stanley bench there that would meet that requirement. And I think there's just enough room for that to fit on a concrete pad to be there at that kind of level landing area of the ramp. So
It's kind of forced to me. Does it seem forced to you?
it does.
I mean, the bench is facing, not facing the streets, it's facing the little new access point? Am I,
Yeah, no, that's correct. Some of it was just to kind of
Look at that.
minimize the impact to those trees, take advantage of the fact of where those were in the critical root zone, but we could reorient it.
is that by your volition, or is that by city's requirement to put something there?
Believe we were supposed to provide one with the North Point overlay.
Receptacle in the
Can it at least face the street? Can it?
Sure.
I mean, to me, it's a wasted spot, it's a wasted bench to have it facing that way. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
I don't mind
I mean, that landscape 101 is,
looking at trees
don't
versus
necessarily-
cars.
Well,
I mean, whatever, I mean, anyway, it's something I'm trying too far in the weeds on, but it just
Sure.
seems forced and odd to.
part of it felt
right
like
there.
maybe it was helping to flank to accent the entrance.
And you're trying to see out the critical root zone of that
Landscape. Yes.
tree? All right, I'm not gonna
So, quick question, Sarah.
dwell on
For
it too much.
the drawing that we have on our monitor, we didn't have that in our package. Okay.
Correct.
that's-
This has been sort
Okay,
of
I'm
a
sorry.
little bit, it's very similar. There
Okay,
are-
yes, there are many notes that are the same, but some are different. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty colorized.
And then, yep, again, providing that pedestrian access. The other thing, but to discuss though, we were kind of proposing some lusher landscape there that at least you would front instead of looking at the street and the cars. There's that.
That's what I was saying.
Anyway,
I would rather look at that than Steak and Shake. I don't know, that's just me. No offense to Steak and Shake.
Wendy's.
That's
Or the old Wendy's, yeah.
the old Wendy's, it's, yeah.
But moving on. So then entering up into the plaza, we were providing some, to kind of break the separation between the restaurant, the pedestrian space, and the vehicular use area, was to provide some raised black metal planters that would have a clumping form bamboo. We were looking into the red dragon bamboo that has these kind of red stems, and that would also help provide just additional planting, landscape, but in a little bit more minimal aesthetic to kind of reflect the architecture.
Do we have images of those, the planters?
Bottom lower left corner, those were some examples that I had found.
Okay.
Just kind of rectangular planters, kind of the, just simple river rock or black Mexican beach.
Is that the bamboo, or is that just a random plant?
That is bamboo, but
Okay.
it would be a little bit different than the one we're looking for.
It's a true closed container?
Yes, yep,
So-
that was per our conversations, yes, with David.
Are they irrigated?
They would be,
Bamboo likes a lot of water, right?
I believe
They don't?
so. No.
Yeah,
Well,
bamboo's just a wild grass that,
I've always associated with a wetter area than,
I can't help
okay.
I don't think so.
All right, just, never mind.
that. Yeah, well, once they're established, they were gonna go.
Right. And then, let's see, then we had our Zen garden. We're actually gonna end up moving that maple to the south a little bit to accommodate the red banner off of the restaurant, the sign that they were having, I guess. Or that's back and forth, what was approved at the previous DRB, but located to accommodate that. And that was going to be a red emperor Japanese maple, so something that gets really brilliant red in the fall and kind of helps accent their color and architecture as well. That was going to be with pea gravel, moss boulders, just kind of a simple, a little bit more simple visual garden than actually anybody interacting, and that was going to be behind a traditional bamboo fence that was about 30 inches height. So I think before we had proposed kind of more of a wandering garden, and this was more of a now look into therefore.
We have imagery of that fence, bamboo fence?
It's in our packet.
Yeah, there was the one previously supplied in the architectural
Seeing that.
If you scroll back a couple,
plan.
Yeah, this thing keeps freezing.
Brett, do you have access? It might not be in this packet.
I think Brett's keeps freezing.
It is. It's about,
Yeah.
There you go. There it is.
Okay.
Now, the banners are not going to be up there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was just the original rendering for their reference.
That fencing will have the posts, the cross pieces, and the bamboo matting, if you will.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, because in our, it says a bamboo fence will be discussed with the deferred landscape. That was what we said last month.
So people don't really walk through that, they just sort of look at it. Yeah. Like a zoo exhibit.
It's a contemplative space, you know, as you walk by.
I
word
wouldn't
of,
want people in there either.
word of the day, word of the day, zoo exhibit.
Zoo exhibit, there you go. You're writing it down.
So some of it is that since
Was
we're
asking about that.
doing a concrete, saw cutting concrete, also removing soil to kind of reduce compaction too over time for that maple.
No water in there.
As far as downspouts.
Water feature?
Water feature. Not proposed
Okay, because I thought
right now.
didn't you have something there before? Okay.
I did, that was sort of a placeholder fountain.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just seeing if you had furthered that placeholder, if you had turned the page.
No, then turn the page. Try to simplify it back down to not have so many, maybe
Okay.
for my own words, kitschy elements. Try to simplify it back down to the trees, some boulders, a couple of ground covers in there, creeping thyme, pachysandra to kind of differentiate closer to the building,
Okay.
further out with the sun, and then
All right.
all right, let's see, what else? We also had discussed, I believe, that central landscape area to the south of the building. The existing large Burford hollies are going to stay in place to kind of create the more upright architectural element inside of the landscape. It's established. There are a lot of utilities in there, so try not to disturb too much. And then there is an existing crepe myrtle tree. We are going to be adding notes that all of the crepe myrtles are to stay structurally as they are, no topping.
Good luck.
At least it won't be our fault.
It'll be noted on this drawing anyway.
Yes. And then to also provide, on the narrow portion, at least on the south side of the dumpster, for the evergreen screening requirement, to do a trellised, wire trellis that we could do with, crossvine on that south side.
Is that shown on drawing L3?
The detail, that is the green screen detail on L3.
Okay.
With just kind of the espalier planting detail on there, and then it's just here on the south side of that wall, right there on that new L2.
I think you've done the best you can with an existing condition.
It's kind of tight, so we're trying to provide that evergreen requirement, but then also to something that flowers, gets a little color in there, and then.
I noticed you were changing some of the site lighting, Sarah?
So the site lighting, what I did on this plan was actually just try to more clearly show what the existing light pole locations are out there, both in the parking islands and then along the street frontage.
But you also added near the crosswalk that we were talking about. Now you've got a double south of it or sheet.
Oh, yes.
South.
So right now there is a single head up there. We would like for them to look into doing a double head to
Okay.
kind of reduce canopy conflict, with swapping that light fixture just to because we're gonna have to put a tree there. And right now with just the single light fixture is to kind of take advantage of maybe doing a dual head instead of the single.
Okay, has any kind of photometrics been done for that site lighting?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Is that something you're prepared to do, or at least submit to staff so they can review it? But you can do it? All right, you can present it, or just have it prepared and then let staff review it?
Yep.
Okay,
And
all right. Anything else on the
I think
landscaping?
those are the main points that were discussed since last time. And then,
Okay.
as far as what we had kind of the unknown, I think we've been talking to Jill regarding the rain chains, and David, and we were all on site and kind of came up with these different anchors, whether if the rain chain is in the landscape bed, it would be a piece of rebar mortared in concrete, or in a CMU block that would be buried. Rain chain would connect to it, river rock on top, so you won't see that anchor. And then if there are any areas where rain chain would be onto paving outside of the foundation of the building, it would be galvanized or metal plate with an eye bolt or an anchor on top that it would connect and would be mortared into the paving, just to kind of provide that anchor so those aren't
Swinging in the wind.
swinging around in the wind, yes. Or kids.
Yeah, I'm worried about kids.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Tarzan.
Seriously.
Okay, any other landscape?
I don't know how it falls. I remember last time looking at the renderings, there was, where on this drawing, if you scroll down where the columns are shown. Yeah, and the rendering that was provided was vague as far as how that all worked with the ground plane, what the columns looked like. There were comments on that. Has that been worked out? It may not be your scope, but there was, at least in my eyes, it just looked odd at the time, and I thought there was supposed to be a little more fenestration as far as the renderings for it went.
If I remember correctly, they were gonna be,
Like one of the posts is sitting out in the parking lot and
Yes.
Right.
all that.
So right now, we're currently,
They want to hear your voice in the microphone.
all right, Charles Askew. I'm the project designer on this project. All right, so that column that you were talking about, it's actually, it was a mistake on the rendering, so that column actually it's on the curb. So It's,
So what is it just, so last time it just lacked the fenestration, it was just shown as a post, a four-sided post that came down.
yes,
And so there was discussion, some of it by me, that it needed some sort, there it is right there.
Right.
It looked just like the Home Depot base,
right,
post-based.
Okay.
Post base with a piece of wood, with the wood coming down to it. Has there been any more thought to that and how that is actually finished rather than what it looks like?
yes, we are going to wrap the base of it to match the base of the building in the same, like, stack stone.
Okay. And that wrap is what, 2 feet up, 3 feet up, the whole thing?
It's, like 24 inches up.
Okay. That was it on that one.
Okay.
And it's, the purpose of it is what? What's going on underneath it?
It's just a covered, like, walkway.
Okay.
There's like parking on the backside of the,
That's our main pedestrian access point to connect those parking spaces around to the front of the building.
Okay. And the material underneath there was just concrete?
yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, when I go back, I'm just looking at the motion about the exterior elevations and materials. It does talk about, one of the items during the motion was lighting and fixtures will be determined in the presentation of the photometric plan at a future meeting. So I guess they'll be coming back for
Yes.
the photometrics. Very good.
All right.
Oh, so you keep all the pears in there. You keeping all the pear trees?
What?
I'm sorry, you're keeping all the pear trees?
That is a point of discussion that we're working on right now. No, we are not, but we are working with David and Heidi, and we've selected a few that are definitely need to be removed. And then also,
Heidi likes to save a little more than you.
not as much as some other arborists that I
Huh?
that I won't, this is public record.
Are those Bradford?
And I'm going to leave it
I'm
at
assuming,
that.
well, it doesn't, yeah, I'm assuming.
sure they're
pears
Bradford.
are
So the Bradford pears along the street are deceptive. I actually took me going out to the site to ID and find the little pods because they've been pruned up okay structurally through the years. But there are a few that will need to be removed, and we're working through
Okay, so
with David
you're
on
working
that.
with staff on
Yes.
all of that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We'll still meet all the density and the overall, all the code requirements for that.
Okay.
Okay, anything else with landscaping? There being none? Is there any public comment about this application this morning? Any public comment?
They're like, yes, I think you should approve.
I think he really likes it.
No public comment, all right. Does someone want to offer a motion, please?
Yeah, give me 1 second. This is just landscaping?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will offer the motion on DRB 220050, Maru Japanese Restaurant, that the landscaping is approved as submitted today with the comments on the column bases as described by the applicant. End of motion.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Board Member Corkle, a second by Board Member Rocco. Any comments or questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? No opposition. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much for your time this
Thank
morning.
you very much.
Okay. 4-0. All right. There being no further business and with no objections from fellow board members, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you. All right.